Well, I was born here in this county and raised. I left this county when I was 18 years old, and I joined the military. And I happened to serve with the 187 Regimental Combat Team in Korea, made 2 combat jumps in Korea, and I returned from Korea and joined the elite, the most elite force that we have in our armed forces, which was the Green Berets, Special Forces. I served 17 and a half years with them. I'm one of the highest decorated soldiers in the eastern part of Kentucky. And I happen to have the honor of being chosen as President Kennedy's pallbearer. And I feel very proud of myself and the county for a little man like me to come from this area to have such great opportunities.
Wow.
Vanceburg, the county seat of Lewis County. Lewis County population, 14,292. Area square miles, 484. Rank 13th. Lewis County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
I'm Betty Dillow of Vanceburg, and I'm past president of the Lewis County Historical Society.
Okay.
Gene Wilson, retired, Vanceburg.
Okay.
Bill Childry, City Councilman, Vanceburg.
All righty.
Betty, what can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Lewis County was formed from Mason County about 1807 and was named for Meriwether Lewis, who was a member of the George Rogers expedition through this area sometime before that date.
Okay. Can you give us a little more in-depth background that we had talked about earlier, just about the area?
Ours is an area of about all different types of terrain found in Kentucky. We have the hilly areas, the small mountains, and really some of them are quite large. And in some sections we have the wide fertile bottoms of the land along the Ohio River and the Salt Lake and the Kinnickinnick Creek. These 2 are the main streams in Lewis County. We have the rolling fields and the valleys between the hills and the mountains. And Lewis County has an area of about 486 square miles and a population of about 14,600 estimated. And it's more of an agricultural and forestry area than commercial and industrial. However, timber and wood products are one of the main livelihoods of many Lewis Countyans. We have the United States Shoe Company with 2 plants in Vanceburg, and this provides employments for many of our residents. We still have too many that have to drive miles for employment and leave the county completely. We do need industry badly. Kinnickinnick Creek is our main waterway and runs from Upper Kinney in the Petersville area through most of the northeastern section of the county to enter the Ohio River near Garrison along Kentucky Route 10 East. It is said to lack a mere mile to be long enough to qualify being classified as a river. We have a fine boat dock at the Garrison, up in the Garrison area where the river creek goes into the river, and then we have one down here at the mouth of Salt Lake Creek where a boat dock with facilities for a lot of recreation. And the Kinnickinnick Stream is a fisherman's dream with its fighting muskies and plenty of other varieties of fish. Almost the entire stream can be traveled by small boats or canoe. Salt Lake has a lot of fish in it, and some people prefer Salt Lake fish to the Kinnickinnick. And there's several small man-made lakes and ponds that are stocked by private individuals for fishing. And we have the access to the famous Jenny Wally hiking trail. It can be reached from several different areas of the county, and it's a fine trail for people that like to be in the great outdoors.
Why is it called Salt Lick?
Well, that's in the area where there used to be lots of salt wells, natural salt wells, and that was one reason that our city of Vanceburg was formed, because Joseph Vance and Moses Baird stopped here in 1700 and something and made salt out along the Salt Lake Creek, and they laid out the town of Vanceburg long before it was ever the county seat. And Mr. Vance was in partners, I guess, with Mr. Barrett. Anyhow, they finally decided to call the name town. I think they named it Vanceville first, and then changed it to Vanceburg. And I think Mr. Vance's son or grandson at one time went on to be governor of Ohio. But the Bairds, they lived all around over just across the river area from here for many years.
Okay. What is the age of this courthouse, and what happened to the one prior to it?
Well, it was built, I guess it was torn down. This one was, I think, construction started about 1937 or 8. It was dedicated in 1940. It's made out of native stone, which most of it was quarried up around the Garrison area, I have been told. And most of the work was done by native Lewis Countyans during when the WPA, that's Work Progress Administration, they had work programs to help the counties that didn't have much industry or anything. I guess it was probably all over the country, but we took advantage of it, and the courthouse was built with WPA labor.
Okay, great.
And it was dedicated, as I said, in 1940 in December.
Okay, do you want to tell us a little bit about the memorials here on the grounds?
Mm-hmm. We have, we have the Union Monument, and it is said to be the only Union monument south of the Mason-Dixon line, which is part of the Ohio River, is considered the Mason-Dixon line. And it was built, I don't know whether it was sculptured or cast in concrete or what, I've always wondered, but the money was made up by subscription of the local, the people in the county, and it's dedicated to the ones that lost their life during the Civil War struggle. And my great-grandfather's name's on there.
Great.
And then we have in front of this Civil War monument is a smaller one that has the names of the ones that I believe died in action during the World War I. And inside the courthouse, there's a listing of names of the ones that died during World War II. And on the side there is the Vietnam Memorial that was just dedicated last July 1986. So we pretty well remembered most of our soldiers. So maybe some of them had a rough time when they come back. I don't know.
Okay. I want to ask this council member a question. Can you come back into here? What, as a council member, what do you see as being some of the major problems that your area is faced with?
Well, we need industry terribly bad. And as far as I'm concerned, we probably have more industry sites from one end of the county to the other along the river, and any place from Pittsburgh to Mississippi. And it's a pity that Lewis County has been forgotten all these years. Seems though the other counties all around us get things, but Lewis County is left out. Pretty bad.
What about you? What do you think some of the problems are that the county's faced with?
Well, we have the industrial sites and have the largest freshwater preserve in the area. It runs approximately 50 miles above Portsmouth and to Maysville, Kentucky. Our main problem is employment and underemployment. At the present time, we're running 25% unemployment, and that is based only on the government figures, and that doesn't take into account the people in the county who never draw their unemployment compensation. Now, I personally left the county for 23 years with a corporation out of Pittsburgh before I retired because of the minimum amount of money that a person could make in this county. We have the largest, longest water front of any county in the state of Kentucky. the mileage. We have some of the best industrial sites. We have no roads. It's saying in Frankfort that you can go any place in Kentucky and never go through Lewis County. We're setting up here on a point.
Okay.
But our main thing is unemployment and underemployment.
Okay. Betty, can you tell us a little bit about the school system here?
Well, we have a very progressive school system and many dedicated teachers and supervisors. And we have a lot of fine churches and civic groups and organizations, and most of them work hard for Lewis County. And our county has a very nice public library. We're especially pleased with it, and we have a great circulation, and we're fortunate enough to have a bookmobile that travels the almost the entire area of the county about 3 times a week. It goes over the whole county weekly, or the biggest part of it, and it provides books, magazines, newspapers, records, and the talking books, that's for the blind. And it just serves the shut-in people and the people that's in the outlying areas, and we're very well pleased that we're fortunate enough to have the bookmobile.
Salyersville, the county seat of Macouphin County. Macouphin County's population is 14,264. Area square miles, 310. Rank, 60. Macouphin County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Macouphin County Courthouse. County seat is Salyersville, Kentucky. To my left, we have Mayor Todd Preston, who has volunteered graciously to provide us with some information about the county. Mayor, can you tell us how the county was formed and a little background information?
The Macouphin County was formed from Floyd, Macouphin, and Johnson County in 1859, became Authentic County in 1860 during the tenure of Governor Macouphin, and consequently was named after Governor Macouphin, governor of Kentucky at that time. And Salyersville was named for a noted representative of our district at the time, and the name Salyersville was named after Representative Samuel Salyer. We had probably the most historic courthouse. Eastern Kentucky is noted for its historic courthouses as well as all over Kentucky, and we did have a lovely historic courthouse that burned X amount of years ago. I better not state that, but approximately 20 years ago, this courthouse burned to the ground. But it had the lovely bell towers, the rounded clock towers on each corner of the courthouse, built out of brick, and my grandfather painted the first paint on that original courthouse. Of course, we have pictures of the log courthouses prior to that and so forth. This courthouse is comparatively new and was built under the tenure of County Judge Ray Holbrook at that period of time.
Okay.
I think our local group is doing more for the county tourism-wise maybe than any other group right now, in that we do, during our festival, our annual fall festival called Macouphin County Founders Day, we're trying to bring our people back home that's moved off into the industrial states, and we do a good job of it. We bring in, we have here on the street sometimes in the neighborhood of 10,000 people for a period of a week, and we're going to try to multiply and expand on that as we go along.
Okay, what part of the year is this festival that you have, or fair? Founders Day?
We call it Founders Day, and we compile a book of genealogy on an old pioneer family. Now, we talk about an old pioneer family, we're talking about the original settlers of eastern Kentucky. And we started in '78, and we did a book on the Adams clan of eastern Kentucky. From that to the Prater clan, to the Patrick clan, Arnett clan. I call them clans. We are clannish in eastern Kentucky. We have a cabin out in our local complex that came from what is termed as Hell's Half Acre in this section, and of course Swiss silver mine is definitely located in that Hell's Half Acre, even though some of the other counties claim they have Swiss silver mine. But we do have an authentic log cabin that was built in this vicinity, and appears to be, and legend says, was probably a moonshiner's cabin. Or, you realize back in the 1800s or 1850s or so forth that people did drink a little. They don't do much of that lately, but the moonshine was part of, it was just kind of like farming by some people. Now they kind of had to keep it hid, so this cabin had the blind tiger in it. They had a false log opening in the back of the cabin we found when we tore it down and moved it out here in the middle of town. It had where they could reach in this little opening, and they could get their jug out and sell it or dispense of it, whatever they do. I guess they gave it away. But it was an authentic moonshiner's cabin. I think Hell's Half Acre has not received the publicity that it could. It's a little Grand Canyon, and sort of isolated because of roads and so forth. It's not changed much in my lifetime. Of course, I'm not too old, but it's not changed in basically we'll say since pioneer days.
Mayor, could you please introduce these two gentlemen?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to, and enthused about it too. I'd like to first introduce Mr. Charles Basham, who is a member of our city council, and this gentleman is a lifelong friend also, Grover Salyers. He has been very instrumental in helping eastern Kentucky all through the years, in that he worked with the ad board and the other government agencies, and he's retired now. So he has been incorporated into the city government as a water commissioner. Now, this is property of the Magoffin County Historical Society, which I happen to be president of. These are authentic log houses that have been torn down out in the county and placed here as not only a tourism place for our city and county, but also it serves as the base for our annual Founders Day that our Historical Society sponsors each year. It's an annual thing during the Labor Day weekend. Most counties in eastern Kentucky have their own celebration. We chose to do a heritage celebration, and we do a book of genealogy on an old family. Our first family was the Adams family. Our second family was the Prater family. We're talking about the Prater family that came in here in 1790, thereabout, and lived in rock cliffs when they first tried to settle, and they were routed by the Indians and went into the bluegrass for a few years, and then came back in probably 1800 and built some permanent settlements here, which was known then as Prater's Fort. So the second year we honored the Praters, and we started making plans, and we thought about building a small replica of Prater's Fort out of maybe slabs or discarded timbers, and we found a person who would donate this first cabin here on my left. The second cabin came from historic Hell's Half Acre. This is a little Grand Canyon that is locally known by Hell's Half Acre. It's very isolated. It contains Swift silver mines. There's no doubt about that in everybody's mind here, even though some other counties claim this, Swift Silver's mine. But this cabin was located in that Hills half-acre area. It's the only one that's built out of other than the yellow poplar logs. It is built out of spruce pine. It probably was a bootlegger's cabin. May not have been originally, but we did find what is known as a blind tiger within that building, where that was a great possibility that he stored his spirits that maybe he manufactured in one of the local cliffs and probably offered for resale. And we kind of refer to them in eastern Kentucky as a moonshiner. So we kind of call that our moonshiner's cabin. The story cabin was given to us by the Kennard family, a very old family within the county who have Patrick connections. And during the year of the Patricks, we acquired the Kennard building, which was originally a schoolhouse. The first schoolhouse probably on the Middle Fork of Licking River here in the county. The fourth and newest addition is what we call the church house. This old building is supposedly, family legend tells us, 124 years old, built by the community of the Long Fork of Jennings Creek. Now we're talking about Johnson County now. And it was built for a church house and schoolhouse combination, and we're told that each family within that community had to have 2 logs brought to the site, 2 hewed logs brought to the site, and those logs are probably labor of love, we might say, of the community of the Long Fork, and were erected and used for until 15 years ago as a schoolhouse. Right behind these cabins is Licking River. The headquarters of Licking River is in Magoffin County, about 27 miles upstream. And Dr. Thomas Walker, in his explorations in 1750, came through here and may have, just may have, he did camp here on this, in this particular section that we're standing on. Now, across the river was Floyd County prior to 1860. In 1860, when Magoffin was formed, and what we're standing on prior to 1860 was Morgan County. But in 1750, Dr. Thomas Walker, in his exploration from Cumberland Gap through the Warriors Trail, or the Indian Trace, some people call it, did camp here and described this particular section in his journals. And the Indian encampments were across the river in what is now known as the Dixie Addition and so forth. But he did describe this, and he did give this river a name. He named it Frederick's River, and then he went on up what we now call State Road Fork. He called that Falling Creek, and into the Paint Creek section of Johnson County, and named Paint Creek, which Paintsville was derived from that. And like I said, then the next known history that we have of this section is Archibald Prater and his party, which was Ebenezer Hanna, Clayton Cook, and others. Now, along about this same time, Daniel Williams, who fought at Boonesboro with Daniel Boone and was migrating back in the direction of Pound Gap, he took a fancy to the waters of Licking River in neighboring West Liberty, and he founded the first home there. He was a Baptist preacher and had fought at Boonesboro, as I said, but he established a church house, a Baptist church house, in the section behind this church here in 1813. That was probably our first organized church as such. Now, probably they did have church meetings in homes, but it was the first authentic church building, we think. And that particular organization still not the original building, but they are still in preaching the Word of God today. It was called the Burning Springs Church. The fork out here, Burning Fork Creek, are held the old burning springs that the early pioneers found when they came in to this section, and at one time this was sort of referred to as burning springs, because of this oil and gas seepage that they found up here on the creek. That's when the Patricks, old Jeremiah Patrick, came into this section and started the clan of the Patrick family in this section. And of course the Arnett if you're out of county, and the Howard if you're out of the county family, all came in here. The Adams family, the Caudle family, and I could just go on, the old pioneer families. So we have written a book of family genealogy on 9 of these families. This year we're doing the Wireman family. The pyramid is a black African granite type pyramid that we bought to honor some of our founding fathers. On that will be found the Adams family, the Patrick family, and the Prater family. But we think this is a nice addition to the county. That's the only black African granite pyramid in the United States, to our knowledge. There was only one made, and we're kind of proud of that, sitting in our community center yard.
Inez is the county seat of Martin County. Martin County's population is 14,292. Area square miles, 231. Rank, 93rd. Martin County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Martin County Courthouse, which is located in Inez, Kentucky. To my right, we have the deputy judge. His name is Mike Cassidy. Mike, what can you tell us about the formation of the county, Martin County?
Okay, Martin County was founded in 1870, and it's named for Colonel John P. Martin, who was a pioneer in eastern Kentucky. And it was formulated from the Floyd and Pike counties and created Martin County back in 1870.
Okay. Before we get off the track, why is the town called Inez?
Well, it used to be called Eden, Kentucky, and there already was one town called Eden in Kentucky already, so it had to adopt a new name. And the Inez, the Indian burial grounds that are in the area, is where it got its name, Inez. It was a lot of mound burial grounds and things like that, so that's where the Indian name Inez came from.
Okay. What can you tell us about this courthouse? We were trying to find out how old current courthouses are, as well as the ones that might have existed before it, why they were non-existent.
This courthouse was built in 1939 under the WPA programs of Roosevelt. And every stone in it is hand cut from the hillsides in Martin County. These were cut by local people who worked on the WPA, and every stone in it is hand cut from right here in Martin County, and it's just a unique building.
It is a beautiful building. When it was built, was it because the courthouse prior to that burned or age?
It was just a small structure, and the time for a new facility was apparent, and the WPA program in the 30s was here, and that's the way it was funded and built.
Okay. Do you know what the population is of Martin County?
Right now it's roughly 15,000 people according to the 1980 censuses. That's about holding its standard since 1980.
Okay. What are the major industries?
Our major industry here in Martin County right now is coal. We are the second leading coal-producing county in the state of Kentucky. As per man hours and manpower to produce coal, we probably are the leading county. Only Pike County ranks higher. Other industries are timber, gas, and oil, and some small mining-related industries that you have located here. Okay. Well, we have several structures that are of importance historically to Martin County that people would enjoy seeing. For example, the courthouse here. Other homes in the county that have been here for years. We have some national homes. LBJ launched his war on poverty here in Martin County. The home still exists where he he actually launched that in 1964. We have the largest mountaintop removal co-operation in the world here in Martin County. It's a MAP co-operation. They are literally taking the mountains down and leaving flat terrain. So people could come here and actually see what surface mining is all about and see land that is not useful right now being turned into useful, productive land. It's made the mountains into flat land, which we need very badly in eastern Kentucky. And they would just see a place on the move if they came to Martin County.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about what the deputy judge does?
Well, basically, every county in the state of Kentucky is required to have a deputy judge. That is the law. The deputy judge is responsible. He can do anything that a county judge can do except preside over the physical court. He is in charge if the judge is out of town. He makes any decisions that need to be made that the judge would make in the event that something happens to the judge or he is out of town. Mainly it's an administrative position that you just keep the county operating on a day-to-day basis and assist the judge in anything that he needs done.
Okay. Well, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoyed speaking with you.
Okay.
Maysville is the county seat of Mason County. Mason County's population is 17,189. Area square miles, 241. Rank, 89th. Mason County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
I'm Mary Louise Duke, and I live in Mason County, and we're now standing in Washington, Kentucky, which is in Mason County. Washington was the first county seat of a very, very large area. The river, of course, meant that lots of people would be using it. It was one of the nation's first highways, of course. And the flatboats came down and landed at what was then Limestone. They came up the hill, only 4 miles, but it took them a whole day to get up the hill with their loaded wagons and the things from their flatboats that they'd brought from home. But in 1790, Washington was the second largest town in Kentucky. It had 500 people in 1790, and it still has 500 people. But it really was a very, very lively place because the county seat was here of this huge area. Parts of 19 counties were made from Mason County, so you know it was a large area at that point. The county seat was a lovely stone building down here in the heart of Washington. It was built by Lewis Craig in 1794, and there were many lawyers out here, but when the Indians became quieted and the steamboat became on the scene, the citizens who lived in Maysville then decided that they would like to have the county seat. So the county seat was taken away from Washington in 1848 and moved into Maysville.
Can you tell us a little bit about the courthouse that was here?
It was built of stone in 1794 by Lewis Craig, who really was a marvelous stonemason. He had come out here from Virginia. And we're so delighted now that the Kentucky Historical Society has returned the cornerstone of that beautiful old courthouse back to Mason County. The courthouse burned in 1909. But just this past summer, the Kentucky Historical Society gave us the cornerstone, the keystone of that building that has Lewis Craig's initials, LC 1794. So we're just delighted to have that back in Mason County, have it back home.
Can you tell us a little bit about the restoration in the area right here?
Well, as you know, of course, it was a very old town, and these sidewalks that you see here, these flagstone walks, were laid in 1786 when Washington became a town, and of course then it was Washington, Virginia. And because Kentucky didn't become a state, of course, until 92. That White House right over there was built in 1805, and there are many, many early buildings here. And the Visitor Center, where we just were, is one of the 2 original log houses on their original site. They do belong to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, those 2 log houses up there. One's the Visitor Center, the other is the Simon Kenton Trading Store.
Okay. Can you tell us about the current courthouse, which is located in Maysville?
It's a beautiful, beautiful Greek Revival structure. And as I say, the steamboat and the river, the people realized they had the goose that laid the golden egg in that river. And for a long time, they wanted the courthouse. And a big hotel was built out here in order to keep the courthouse here, but it didn't work. The legislature finally moved it downtown. But the people downtown, the city fathers, had built a lovely, great, big town hall. And of course, they had their eye on the county seat at that time. So in 1848, the courthouse, the county seat, was moved from Washington into Maysville in this lovely Greek Revival building. And Washington really went to sleep for a good many years until 1955, when the first restoration was done out here. And then in the 60s, things began to happen. Lots more restorations came on. So things are jumping again in Washington. Maysville is the second largest burley tobacco market in the world. And we have Browning Pulley Works. It started out as the Browning family. Now it's the Browning division of Emerson Electric. And they employ a good many people. There's a bicycle factory here. There's a cotton mill. Kentucky's oldest family-owned industry is located in Maysville. And that's the January and Wood Cotton Mill. Of course, it's here on account of the river being in Maysville. They have a shop out here in Washington, but the factory is in Maysville. And it was started in 1835, so it's Kentucky's oldest family-owned industry.
We're trying to promote tourism for each county. As you've already said, there are many things to see here. In addition to the historical restorations, what else could people come through Mason County and see?
A whole lot of things. You said the wrong thing when you said tourism. To me, the tourist industry in Mason County is going beautifully. It really and truly is. We've been working on it now for a good many years. Washington was a great boon to Mason County's tourist industry with the restoration and finding these original log houses here. And as you will see when you get in downtown Maysville, the architecture down there is entirely different from the architecture here. The building boom in downtown Maysville was 1830 to 1850, when the big influx of people from Europe were coming in and coming down the river on the flatboats, and they brought the architecture with them from Europe. If you've ever been to Antwerp or to Bruges, Belgium, it's very, very similar with descending parapets and entirely different from this out here. There are two buildings out here that are later than the rest, and they have that typical architecture that is in Maysville.
Okay. Are there any special events that Mason County holds, an annual event, or isn't Court Day held here?
Mm-hmm. Court Day is the first Monday in October every year, and Simon Kenton Days are out here. Are you familiar with Simon Kenton? Mm-hmm. Well, good, because he was quite a boy. But Simon Kenton Days are out here. Frontier Christmas, this is the 20th year for Frontier Christmas, and it originated in Washington as a party to show the community what we had done with their gifts. And it's been a big event ever since. And last year we had a Main Street Festival downtown, so we really have lots of things going. Good. Simon Kenton really was. He was a great person. Now, Daniel Boone got all of the publicity because Daniel had his PR man with him in John Velson. But Simon really didn't have. Now, Daniel Boone went off and left his family, but Simon didn't. Simon, his heart was very, very big. Maybe his heart was better than his business sense. Of course, he met all those people off the flatboats. He took them to his station. So many of them stayed here. Some of them stayed 5 years before they decided where they wanted to settle. And he had this trading store, and he just wanted everybody to help themselves at his house and here at his store. So he ended up broke, and he was in jail here in Washington. But he was such a fine man, and people in Frankfort in the legislature knew what a fine man he was, that while he was in jail, the legislature repealed the debtor's law, imprisonment for debt in Kentucky. So we don't have an imprisonment for debt law now in Kentucky. on his account. And then, of course, Kentucky was getting a little crowded for him. He liked the open spaces, so then he moved on to Ohio and died in Urbana, Ohio. But he really was a great man. Planted the first corn in northeast Kentucky and did a lot of wonderful things.
Frenchburg, the county seat of Menifee County. Menifee County's population, 5,265. Area square miles, 203. Rank, 101st. Menifee County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
I am Barbara Ingram, and this is my daughter, Jennifer Ingram.
When was Menifee County formed?
Menifee County was formed in 1869. It was on February the 24th, 1869, a representative from Pike County, Kentucky, introduced a bill to establish the county of Menifee from 5 counties, and those counties were Montgomery, Morgan, Bath, Powell, and Wolfe counties.
Okay. How did it get its name?
Menifee County was named in honor of Richard Hickman Menifee, and he, in 1837, was elected to Congress and served this area. He was from Bath County.
Okay. How did the town Frenchburg get its name?
Frenchburg was named from a man. His name was Richard French, and in 1837, when Richard Hickman Menifee ran for Congress, it was Richard French that he defeated.
Okay. How old is the courthouse behind us?
This particular building was built in 1929. There was a courthouse here prior to that time. It was a white clapboard-like building.
Okay. Do you have any idea how old that courthouse was? Or how many courthouses Menifee County's had?
I believe the 2. I'm not sure. There's some pictures around of the first courthouse or the one prior to this one.
Okay. What's the population of the county?
The 1980 census of Menifee County, 5,080 people, and of that, 550 were living in the city of Frenchburg.
Okay.
We are practically midway. Frenchburg is practically midway between Red River Gorge and Cave Run Lake, and that's 2 places that most everyone that's heard of Menifee County have heard of. Well, one thing that fascinates me, when the census of Menifee County was taken in 1900, there were more people here than in any other census year. And then another thing, Menifee County, Menifee is spelled M-E-N-I-F-E-E. Richard Menifee spelled his name M-E-N-E-F-E-E, and the change in spelling was brought about by an era when the Senate, or I don't know if it was in Washington or in Frankfort, but anyway, it was a mistake on the part of the legislatures that caused that spelling of Menifee County now to be spelled with an I in place of an E, as Richard Menifee's name was spelled. And then recently, I'm very enthused about this. Recently, I found a newspaper, Lexington Press, dated June the 29th, 1882, and it gave an account of a flood in Frenchburg, and there was 6 people drowned. It listed those people. They were Mrs. Byram and her 2 daughters of Preacher Watkins and Mrs. John Fox Sr. Only 4 of those people's bodies were recovered, and we don't know for sure which 4. But the thing that enthuses me the most, the headlines of the newspaper said, another calamity strikes the town of Frenchburg, and we don't know what the other calamity was. Yeah, that's interesting. What body of water is close by here?
Well, Beaver Creek runs through Frenchburg, but two rivers are boundary lines of Menifee County. That is Red River and Licking River. And of course, Licking River runs into Cave Run. And then the Wells family, they've always been active in politics here, very prominent in politics in Menifee County. And at one time, 3 first cousins held public office in the courthouse.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The Wells family, they have always been very prominent in politics in Menifee County. Yeah, so.
Okay. Does your county, we're finding in a lot of counties that some groups have gotten together and written books or pulled some information together in each county. Has your county done that? Or I understand that you were a chairperson.
2.5 years ago, a fellow came to Frenchburg inquiring about a historical society or someone that would be interested in a history of Menifee County, and a group was formed, and we called ourselves the Committee for the Publication of the History of Menifee County. And just this past August, our books were delivered. We had 400 and sold them all.
Okay, great. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Okay. Tell us a little bit about the book of the county. How much time was involved in putting it together?
Well, this book, we worked on about 2.5 years. Each family in the county, anyone that had roots in Menifee County or that lived here now or that had any connection to Menifee County whatsoever, was invited to write their own family story. And then a professional historian from West Virginia was hired to write the history part of the county. And I chaired the committee that overseen this book. I accepted all the orders and the stories, and I done a lot of proofreading with the help of some other people. And we had 400 copies, and they're all sold. And I'm really proud to be a part of the History of Menifee County book.
Okay, great. Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the new special interest or project that you're on now?
Well, there's a one-room school located a mile and a fourth south of Frenchburg, and or north of Frenchburg, and it's the Rowell School. It's the only one-room school standing in in Menifee County in its original structure. By that I mean one that's not been converted into a private home or a stripping room or storage or something like that. And the school, Rowell School, was named in honor of my great-grandfather, Roe Wells, and his wife, George Ann, was the first teacher that ever taught at that particular location, and that was about 1880. And I do hope that we can, I'm going to apply for a grant, but I do hope that we can restore that building and have it as a natural setting of a one-room school like it was probably 100 years ago.
Okay, great. Thank you, and good luck with the project.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Of Richard Menifee.
West Liberty, county seat of Morgan County. Morgan County population, 12,049. Area square miles, 382. Rank, 39th. Morgan County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
It was formed in 1822, and it was the 73rd county to be formed under Governor Adair, and 5 months later, in 1823, Governor Adair commissioned 12 citizens as justices of the peace, and the county was named for General Daniel Morgan.
Okay. What can you tell us about the courthouse, this courthouse, and maybe ones that existed prior to it?
The first courthouse was completed in 1827, and the second courthouse was burned during the Civil War, and the third courthouse was torn down to replace this present courthouse, which was built in 1907. And the present courthouse was renovated in 1982 after it had been condemned. The clock is from E. Howard Clock Company and was made in 1880 and has worked continuously since 1972.
Okay, what can you tell us about the memorials that are in the front yard?
The World War I monument was erected in 1926 in memory of those killed during that war in action.
Okay. And then there's some monument down here.
The Founders Day Monument was erected and dedicated in 1986 to Edmund Wells and 11 other men who were appointed justices of the peace of West Liberty. Court was held in the home of Edmund Wells until the first courthouse was completed in 1827.
What is the major industry in the county, in your view?
I would say farming.
I understand that there is the possibility of a federal prison coming in.
Yes, it's already been under construction.
Is it 500 or 1,000 person?
Started out to be 500, but I think now they have raised it till it will be 1,000 bed. It's a minimum security prison.
How long have you lived here in the county?
All my life.
When did you get interested in history?
When I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the Historical Society here redeveloping?
Well, several years ago it was fairly active, I think, but it hasn't been for a few years, and now we're trying to get it back into existence again and get some members and try to get some things going for the society.
A question we ask everyone is about tourism, and sometimes there are counties that are booming with tourism, other counties aren't, and what we're trying to do is promote tourism in each county. Is there anything available here, and if not, do you see the need for developing some kind of tourist attractions?
Yes, I do, and one thing that they have done in the last year and a half or so is we have down on the next street this old mill park. There was a swinging bridge that used to go across the river down here over to the other part of town, and which fell several years ago. So Mr. Lynn Nichols was very interested in it and was instrumental in getting a new swinging bridge built and developing this old mill park, which is going to be used for most anything that wants to be used for, and I know they're planning an event right now soon starting, just maybe every weekend or two. I mean, they're going to have, like, the bands are going to participate, and they have walking trails, and it's just a real nice thing that has come in, I think, for our county. Okay. And I mean, it's just people here in the county that's interested in town, that's interested in it and doing it. The last weekend in September of each year, we have what we call our Morgan County Sorghum Festival, which is a big event. They block off Main Street from one lot to the other and put up tent all the way down the street, and there is like 90 booths under those tents, and there is people from of course, our county, naturally, and the state, and I would say 7 or 8 maybe states, different states come in for this event. I'd say 50 to 75,000 people.
It's a large festival.
It is. It's a great festival.
Why is it a sorghum festival? Is sorghum made here?
Yes, it is. They have their horse-drawn sorghum mill, and they make the sorghum right here, which they have sorghum to sell, and then they make the sorghum right here, and you can go and watch it being made.
Okay, it's only made at this fair. It's not made throughout the year here?
Yes, it's made throughout, different farmers make it throughout the fall of the year.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Hazard, the county seat of Perry County. Perry County population, 34,800. Area square miles, 341. Rank, 50. Perry County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
My name is Martha Quigley, and I'm the director of the Perry County Museum, which is owned and operated by the City of Hazard.
My name is Vernon Cooper, and I'm a deputy sheriff here in Perry County.
Okay, thank you. What can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Around 1790, John Combs with his sons came and settled all up and down the banks of the river, and Elijah Combs settled in on this, close to this side. As a matter of fact, behind the courthouse was where his first house was located. And he was a very far-seeing man, and he did a lot for establishing Hazard and Perry County. Perry County. Oliver Hazard Perry was a well-known naval hero. He was doing a lot of winning a lot of battles up on Lake Erie, and it is said that there were a lot of people from this area and from Hazard itself that fought with Oliver Hazard Perry. They admired him very much, and so they took the name Perry and they called the town Perry and Perry County. And later on, I think they decided that they would, about 1810. They decided that they liked the name Hazard for the town, so and it was incorporated. Hazard was incorporated in 1854.
That's correct.
Okay. About the courthouse, this obviously isn't the original. And how old is this courthouse?
This courthouse is 21 years old. It was constructed in 1966. The contractor was the Johnson Construction Company from Ashland, Kentucky. It took a couple of years to build it, and it's a very modern courthouse we're very proud of here in Hazard and Perry County, Kentucky.
What about the courthouses that were here prior to it?
Well, there were several courthouses that burned down, and before this last courthouse was constructed, there was a big bell housing on top of the building, and there was a big bell in there that they rang every now and then. And at the People's Bank here now, behind the bank, we built up a brick formation, and we've got that bell mounted on top of a brick structure in back of the bank, along with a bell from the old First Baptist Church here in Hazard. So those are two historic things that we're proud of here in Hazard.
Great. What is the population of the county?
Well, it depends upon who you're talking to. If you talk to the mayor, it's 7,000 or 8,000, but I think it's really around 6,000 people.
That's the town of Hazard.
That's the town.
Yeah.
Town. Okay, what would the county be?
The county has 37,162 people.
It's a large county.
That's the latest figures put out by the Kentucky River Area Development District.
Okay. What is the major industries going for you here in the county? And is there a need for additional industry?
Yeah, we need a lot of new industry. We are a one-industry town, coal mining primarily. We do have a lot of service industries. We have a new 220-bed hospital opening up this coming week. We've got lots of federal offices in this area and lots of state offices. We are in the center of eastern Kentucky, and we sort of consider ourselves a regional center for maybe 100 to 150,000 people.
Great. Okay, something we want to try to do for each county is promote tourism. What can you tell us about your county?
Well, within about 20 miles of Hazard, maybe 25, we have a Corps of Engineers flood control dam, the Buckhorn Dam, which was built in the early 1950s. There's a state park there. It's quite a recreational facility. We do have some nice motels and other facilities for tourists in this area.
This county is very culturally minded. We have a museum and a Perry County Public Library, and we have a very active community college, and it's impressive to see what's going on in Perry County.
Okay, great.
And we do have an Economic Development Commission, a Hazard Chamber of Commerce. We're developing industrial sites, and we hope to bring some small industries into this area to help our unemployment situation.
This book was published in 1953, and it was compiled by the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Hazard chapter. And it's on sale now. This is the last edition, and I believe they still have several copies available, but they're running low, and this will be the last chance to get copies of this. It's very, very good history.
It's quite an interesting history. It tells a lot of stories of the development of Hazard and Perry County and the principal families who settled in here and their descendants, and it makes quite an interesting book to read.
county seat of Pike County. Pike County population, 82,973. Area square miles, 785. Rank, number 1. Pike County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
My name is Francis D. Burke. I'm an attorney in Pikeville, Kentucky. All of my parents and grandparents are natives of Pike County, so I go back a long way in this county.
Okay. What can you tell us about the formation of the county?
Of course, initially, Kentucky was part of Virginia. This area was a part of Virginia. When we became a state, this was part of Mason County. It became part. This part became part of Floyd County, and then in about 1822, or late 1821, we became a separate county. I think we're the largest county in Kentucky in area.
Okay. How did it get its name, Pike County?
It was probably named after General Zebulon A. Pike. Everybody would recognize Pike Peak. As a matter of fact, we used to, 10 or 12 years ago, had a post office in this county named Zebulon, about 4 or 5 miles out southeast of here, named Zebulon. So this county was named after General Zebulon A. Pike.
Do you know the age of the courthouse?
The courthouse, this courthouse was initially built in the late 30s, and as a matter of fact, we're badly in need of a new courthouse. It is totally inadequate for the needs of this county.
Okay. Do you know anything about the courthouses that were here prior to this?
First courthouse was a 48 by 30 building, a log structure. That was about 1823. And from that we've grown to this courthouse, and as many counties and areas demand, we need a larger and more adequate building.
Do you know what the population of the county is?
The last I've heard, the population was about 95,000. Of course, that was the population in 1980, and we've had the studies that show we've gone down a little, and some say up a little. But I would say, if I had to guess, I would say about 90,000.
Okay. What's the major industry in this county for those who don't know?
Well, it has to be coal mining and associated industries. In fact, that's our biggest problem, not only in this county, but in all of southeastern Kentucky.
We're trying to promote tourism for each county. What would you suggest people coming here to see?
Kentucky and Virginia have the only interstate park in the entire United States. It is located along the boundary of Kentucky and Virginia, shortly east of Elkhorn City, which lies at the exterior eastern boundary of this county. Of course, that facility is at its best in the fall and the spring, because it really shows the greatest potential of color in the fall and the greening of the mountains. These mountains can be very bleak and dark and forbidding in the winter, but when the hills and their colors burst forth, it is a spectacular sight. But even more spectacular is that happens in the fall at the coloring of the leaves.
Okay.
We are the largest coal-producing county in the United States. We are economically depressed, as is the coal industry at large. I have nothing to offer for Pike County other than our scenic beauty, a breed of people that are tough. We come from a Scotch-Irish ancestry. We have beautiful scenery and coal, and I guess that's the bottom line.
Could you introduce yourself?
Be glad to. I'm Tom Varney from the Pond Creek section, eastern part of Kentucky, Pike County.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about this special event that you founded?
I like the way you worded that. It is a special event. It's honoring the coal miners and their families of Kentucky, West Virginia.
Okay.
And this is the 7th annual Coal Diggers Day coming up April 24th, 25th, and 26th. Most of this takes place at Belfry, Kentucky, Hardy Community Park, the parade in downtown Williamson on Saturday the 25th.
Okay, and this is an annual event now?
It's an annual event, right.
Okay. Will you introduce yourself?
George Wells, Pikeville.
Okay. George, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Hatfield and McCoys? For some people who don't know that where they originated and where the feuding took place.
The feud originated in Pike County, in what we call the backside of our county, the Tug River area. That feud started over the Civil War. It was the Confederates against the Yankees. The Hatfields were Yankees and the Confederates were McCoys. Now, some people may differ on that, but all the history that I can find, that's what started it. Then the stealing of a pig, one thing or the other, that broke it open. But it started and was carried down from the Civil War. Now, the Hatfield and McCoys are extensive. The late Governor Hatfield, Dr. Hatfield, was one of the finest gentlemen who ever lived. And I might mention this, that the late ex-prize fighter, Jack Dempsey, his grandmother was a sister to Devil Ann's Hatfield. We have a gentleman just over in the country who runs a furniture store over here, Paul McCoy, and he's the grandson of Randall McCoy, the head of the McCoy clan. All good people, and as soon as they said the feud was over, it was over. There was no bickering, no fighting after that.
Great. What can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit about the Hillbilly Days, the dates of it, and does it run annually?
Hillbilly Days is an annual affair. Ordinarily it comes on the third weekend in April. This year we set it up a week because of Easter. We did not want it to conflict because a lot of people would like to be back home and go to church. And we believe in attending the church of your choice. That is the number one requisite in our order. We believe in it. Now, the Hillbilly Days is 11 years old. It was founded by two local people here. Howard Stratton primarily headed it up, and Grady Kinney. And the money goes for our Shrine Crippled Children Hospitals. Every dime that we make, not that we take in, but every dime we make goes to the hospitals. I'm a firm believer in this. I'm a board member, have been for years. And in the month of February, for instance, we had 17 active patients from Pike County down to Lexington at the patients at the Shrine Crippled Children Hospital. We own 19 orthopedic hospitals and 3 burns institutes.
As a fellow Shriner and Mason, I'm very proud to have been here for Hillbilly Day this time, and I appreciate the work that you all do for the crippled children. And I know that this event draws in a lot of money and draws in a lot of people here to Pike County and Pikeville. And we were proud to be here, be a part of it with you.
Well, thank you. We're glad to have you. And I might say this. The hotels are already filled for next year, unless we can come with, people want to come back. We got people been coming 10, 11 years. And we had over 20 states represented, plus Canada was here.
Fantastic.
You name it almost, and we had them in here. They all believe in one thing, having a good time, do it in the right way, and make money for our hospitals.
Stanton, the county seat of Powell County. Powell County population, 11,962. Area square miles, 180. Rank, 112th. Powell County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
Sherry Bowen, and I'm County Clerk.
Diane Rogers. I'm 4-H agent with the University of Kentucky's Cooperative Extension Service.
I'm John Cox, and I'm the county attorney.
Okay. How long have you been the county attorney?
Since 1958.
Okay. We wanted to get some information on the historical background of the county. When was the county formed?
The county was formed in 1852. A part of it came from Estill County, part from Clark County, and part from Montgomery County. It was named from Lazarus Powell, a Southerner who was in the Civil War and in the U.S. Senate about the time the county was formed.
Okay. What about the courthouse? We know that this is not the original courthouse, but how old is this courthouse, or what year was it erected, and a little bit about the old courthouse?
This courthouse was built in 1978. The original courthouse was burned in 1863 and rebuilt in 1864, and it was used until this previous courthouse was built in 1978.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the furnace here in the county.
One of the most profitable early industries was mining the iron ore, and there's a large furnace called Cottage Furnace in Powell County and in the surrounding areas, and a lot of the iron was mined in this area and shipped to other areas for use in metal making.
Okay.
Probably the major industry. We have some small industries here, Continental Metal and some others, but I would say that the basic employment in this county is still probably agriculture, and has been, of course, through the years. Since I have resided here in Powell County, since June of 1948, that has been the case. We have a brick plant, and as I said, Continental Metals. We have a small company that makes clothing. But basically our people, those who are employed, work away in Winchester, Lexington, and many of those have family farms that they farm in their spare time. We also have quite a few full-time farmers who do nothing else.
We have the Natural Bridge State Park, and that is a big tourist attraction. We get, several people coming from different states that enjoy that. There's hike trails and a lot of rocks, huge rocks and things that people like that they're not used to, that they come here for. But and then we have the Chimney Rock that people come in to see.
The Red River Gorge, which is partly in our county, is a great tourist attraction. Practically the year round now, it seems that people stay up there most all year. When they started, it was mostly just in the summer. An interesting fact about the furnace that was related about a while ago is that also during the Civil War, those furnaces made cannonballs, which were used during the Civil War. In fact, during that period of time, that was their main function. Of course, they were made out of the iron that was mined there.
Of course, we have marriage license. We do all the recording of the deeds and the mortgages when people borrow money. And, of course, you come to register to vote there. We file veterans' discharges. Taxes. We collect delinquent property taxes. And we do a great variety of things.
I work for the College of Agriculture with the University of Kentucky's Cooperative Extension Service, and we provide several services here in the county. There's a home economist, Jan Miller, who provides services to homemakers clubs and special interest home economics type skills. Mike Reed is agricultural agent who works with farmers on farm-related problems, and I'm the youth agent who work closely with the schools and with youth in different type of camping programs, educational projects, events, and activities throughout the year. Okay.
As a county attorney, I'm the chief prosecutor in the district court. I also serve as the legal advisor to the fiscal court and to all of the officers.
Moorhead, the county seat of Rowan County. Rowan County population 19,274. Area square miles, 282. Rank, 73rd. Rowan County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
Okay, we're standing across the street from the Rowan County Courthouse, which is not in use at this time. They have a new courthouse. The county seat is Moorhead, Kentucky. To my left, we have Professor George Young. Professor, what can you tell us about the formation of Rowan County?
Rowan County was formed by a legislative act passed by our General Assembly in Frankfort in 1856. And in the same year that the county was created, mainly out of Fleming County, the town of Moorhead was started. But it did not become a city with a separate city government from the county government until 1869. So the town and the county have been here since 1856, and the city was given its own government in 1869, separate from the county.
Okay. How did it get the name Rowan?
The county was named for Judge John Rowan. He's the master of my old Kentucky home. It's quite a thrill to take this tourist course, which I teach every semester, every regular semester. And on trip 1 to Bardstown and Hodgenville, we make for our first stop to unload on trip 1 at Bardstown. And our first stop there is at John Rowan's home, my old Kentucky home. And it's a thrill for these kids to know that he's the builder of that home. Many know it and many do not when they go there to learn about that. Judge John Rowan was a great jurist. He was a lawyer. He reached his peak, I guess, in being a lawyer there in Louisville and being on the State Court of Appeals, which was the highest court of Kentucky at the time that he served as a judge on the Court of Appeals. Judge John Rowan.
Okay, thank you. What can you tell us about the courthouse? This courthouse and the new one up the street?
This courthouse is about the third, I believe, courthouse that we've had on these grounds. This present one, the third one, was built in 1899, and it is still standing over here. But it hasn't been used for a courthouse for several years. When I came here on April the 7th, 1932 to start teaching, it had a slight third floor tower to it that made it more of a Romanesque type of architecture. But the tower was removed several years ago, even before the courthouse was moved down the street. So it was a courthouse, and it still is, but only a courthouse, not in use. It's a courthouse.
Okay. Did they basically grow out of this courthouse?
That's right. They grew out of it. They grew out of it, and they went down here and didn't build a place, but they found a big warehouse that they changed into a courthouse. It's a very elaborate place too. Very nice.
Right. Do you know what the population of the county is?
The population now is around 8,000. When I came, it had about 1,500 in it in 1932. And I'm the only person alive that is still drawing a check. That I came here in 1932, and I've been here ever since, and I'm still drawing a check, but I retired full-time in May of 1979, but I still teach 1 or 2 courses. And my pet course is the course on wheels for 3 credits.
Okay, where do you teach? I know where you
I teach at Moorhead State University.
Okay.
Yes, but I don't teach up on the campus any longer. I teach out in the state. I teach over at Rockwell International at times for Moorhead here in Clark County, and then I teach always, and have since 1977, this tourist course. Offers 3 credits for graduates and undergraduates.
Great. Okay, what do you think the major industries are in this county?
Well, we have a Browning factory out here that makes some sort of electrical products on old US 60 out here in West Moorhead. And then we have a lot of lumber camps controlled by different white companies. Their last names are Whites. They're cousins, and they own a lot of lumber works out here, Whites and Wells's. Lumbering, and this electrical plant out here, this Emerson electric plant, are about the only heavy industries we have here. Of course, the biggest industry, of course, is the MSU. When I first came, It was probably Lee Clay Products out here that made sewer tile, that was transformed from a lumber yard into making sewer tile and things. But it ran out of operation several years ago. So gradually, Morehead State University, coming up through the steps to be a university, took its place and is now the biggest hire of any business in the town, Morehead State University.
How many students are enrolled there?
There are now about 5,500 or more. Okay. We've had a drop in enrollment recently, but we're coming back under able people. One of the greatest things right here locally in the town would be the Cora Wilson Stewart Moonlight School. There was a woman who lived here, even though she died and was buried, I believe, in North or South Carolina. She was born and lived here, and around 1911, as a superintendent of public instruction, she created what was called the Moonlight School System to train people who hadn't gone to school at the regular age to go to school, in their teens, and older, to learn how to read and write. So they went to school at these public one-room schoolhouses out in the county at night. The older people did, to learn to read and write. That became an international venture. And Mrs. Cora Wilson Stewart was the one that's the mother of the Moonlight School idea. This MSU has taken some of her work and does some of it. And some of the agencies of the United Nations have taken some of that work that she did here to train people. Well, and then the courthouse here is a nice place to go.
Our good friend from Northern Kentucky who served us up there as president of Northern Kentucky University has been serving as the acting president here at Morehead.
And he'll be here until the 1st of July.
Dr. A.D. Albright. And also you have a couple of very distinguished gentlemen on your board of trustees here. I believe former Governor Louis B. Nunn and former Governor Ed Breathitt have been working with the college.
And Governor Nunn is the chairman of the board right now. And Governor Breathitt is a member of the board.
Two outstanding gentlemen, and they've really worked hard with Dr. Albright and you all, the professors and student body and faculty, to push Morehead University forward and to guide it into the directions of helping it be the great university it is.
Yes, sir. We just had a great reunion last week. We had Founders Day here last Thursday, a week ago yesterday. And a lot of the history of the past of this town and county were revealed. And we had 4 presidents here, 3 ex-ones, and the present president.
Fantastic. It's nice to be here with you.
Thank you, sir.
Campton, the county seat of Wolfe County. Wolfe County population, 7,079. Area square miles, 223. Rank, 94th. Wolfe County is located in the 7th Congressional District.
We're standing across the street from the Wolfe County Courthouse. County seat is Campton, Kentucky. To my right, we have Gina Neff, who is a young local historian. Gina, where do you go to school?
Wolfe County High School.
Okay, and what year are you in?
Junior.
Okay. What can you tell us about the formation of the county?
The county was formed in 1860 and named after Nathaniel Wolfe, a Louisville lawyer. He was served as Commonwealth Attorney for Jefferson County for 13 years. It was the 110th county formed from parts of Breathitt, Morgan, and Magoffin counties.
Okay. What can you tell us about the courthouse that was here prior to this one?
The courthouse burned in 1912 and burnt a lot of the old county records, and that's a hindrance in finding local things about families and other records. The courthouse now was built about in 1913, and renovations were made in 1979.
Okay. What else can you tell us? Can you give us any other information historically related to Wolfe County?
One of the major historical attractions of the county is Swango Springs. Swango Springs were discovered. They were on the land of Nancy and Harold Swango and sold to John Rittenhouse, and he built a hotel, the Swangos El Ranch Hotel, Swango Springs Hotel, and those were big attractions around the turn of the century. Those were in Hazel Green, near Hazel Green, and now the town has dwindled because of lack of interest.
Okay. What is the population of the county?
The county is about 7,500 people.
Okay.
Population of the county.
What does the county have to offer in terms of tourism?
Well, Red River Gorge, around Sky Bridge, Rock Bridge, other campsites, things of that nature.
Okay, what is Sky Bridge?
Oh, it's rock formation, rock bridge, formed by water, freestanding.
Okay. Does this come naturally to you to be interested in local history?
Yes, and then there was a lot of interest around the county about history, and the video club, the Wolfe County Video Club, is doing a history of Wolfe County, hopefully to be shown on KET.
Okay, and I understand that you've written a paper on Wolfe County yourself?
Right. Papers and speeches.
Okay.
In Campton, there's a small factory, employs 250 people, Campton Electronics, and they make computer peripherals. And now there's going to be a satellite plant from the Toyota company coming into Haleachua. It's a tri-county cooperation that bought the land. It's Wolfe, Morgan, and Magoffin counties.
Okay. Is farming, agriculture still a major industry?
Agriculture is a major industry, yes.
Okay. How many kids are in your class?
About 60. The whole school's about 350. Real small school.
That is very small.
Yeah, and that's the county school. The ground where the courthouse is built now is supposedly the campsite of John Swift, and John Swift's silver mine is rumored to be about half a day horseback from here. He would come to the courthouse, to the site where the courthouse is now, the campground, and there was a woman in town who would fix some biscuits, and he would head out on horseback to a silver mine. Hazel Green Academy in Hazel Green was a private church-supported academy school, high school, and it was for 102 years. It served the people of Hazel Green in this area.
What are the major routes into Campton?
The Burt T. Combs Parkway. Burt T. Combs, of course, being a former governor from this area. 4-lane parkway.
Okay.
I'm Bob Rukoff. I fell in love with an area in Kentucky many, many years ago. Went there just on a little visit to Natural Bridge State Park, only to find that it was one absolutely beautiful area combining the Natural Bridge State Park and the Red River Gorge in Kentucky. I think most people don't realize that in the 5-mile square area there are over 100 natural arches, which are probably the largest accumulations of natural arches in the United States. They're not quite as big as the ones that you'll find out in Utah, but there's plenty of them, and there are several different varieties of them to make the place an absolutely fascinating place. Plus the fact that the upper gorge of the river is one of the most absolutely beautiful areas with large slump blocks that have gathered down around the river itself. Geologically, it now, of course, is a National Geologic Area. Some of the most beautiful parts of it are part of the Daniel Boone National Forest. Other parts are owned by the state of Kentucky, particularly the area around Natural Bridge State Park. People have been coming into this area as tourists actually from before the turn of the century. Just a little bit north or a little bit south of Natural Bridge, there was a resort town of Torrent. There's no town there anymore, but when the railroad went through there, it's many, many years ago, about before the turn of the century, built originally to lumber the area, they found out that this area of Torrent was an excellent place for people that had hay fever. And they would come up there from particularly Lexington, Cincinnati, Louisville, and so forth, spend time up there. Then later on, of course, the Louisville and National Railroad built a lodge at Natural Bridge State Park. It was not a state park then. I think the Natural Bridge State Park was the first or second state park in Kentucky. The railroad turned it over to the state, and then the state has been running the lodge there ever since. The old Hemlock Lodge burned down several years ago, and of course they have the new modern facility there. I understand it's the most visited state park almost either one of the two most visited state parks in Kentucky. And if you like arches, you like natural scenery, if you like high sandstone cliffs, a lot of history. We know, for instance, in the big rock shelters, or recess caves as we call them, that the Adena Indians lived there 1,000 years ago. There are stairways that they cut in the sides of walls, and many artifacts have been found in the various parts of the gorge itself. It's a tremendously popular area, but it always fascinates me that how I can go there on, let's say, some of the off seasons of the year and still have it almost entirely to myself. I'm not adverse to people, but on the other hand, it just so relaxing to me as I was down there 3 weeks ago walking up the upper gorge in the marvelous fall colors. I can't remember offhand, but it is one of the greatest flower garden places in the world for natural, just wildflowers growing. I used to know how many there have been cataloged there, because you have a change of about 600 feet of altitude, and this means that you're going somewhere, and I may be off on this without checking my figures, but somewhere from about, maybe the area almost down to Alabama to almost Canada as far as the different types of climate conditions that you will run into there. And I found that the almost wilderness capacities, even though the whole area was pretty much logged over in the early part of the 20th century, the second growth timber has really reached great proportions now, and it seems almost like you're in a wilderness again. Of course, we know that Daniel Boone was very, very close to the area. Of course, the Shawnee and other tribes were in here. Place called, I've forgotten the name of it. It's a long name, so I won't embarrass myself to try to say it. But it's an area rich in history, rich in beauty, and most assuredly it's inspired me to write a book about it, which I did, called Kentucky's Land of the Arches, and apparently a lot of people like it because it has sold rather well for the last, 10 or 12 years.
I would like to thank the many people who helped make these historic tapes possible. Historians, elected officials, businesses, Store Cable with their equipment, the many other studios across the state, local newspapers, daily newspapers that helped us in this effort. In particular, Miss June Guyman, who traveled some 42,000 miles across the Commonwealth of Kentucky with me, filming these historic tapes. Now we'd like for you to enjoy the history of Kentucky, county by county, as we enjoyed making the history come true for you. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place to work and play. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place I want to stay. Its far north gate and southern trails came Walker Boone and Kenton too. Kentucky, she is calling, a place of history. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place to work and play. Oh, Kentucky, Kentucky County, a place I want to stay.
for president. For half a century, Happy Chandler was America's preeminent Southern politician.
In 1982, I was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. They said I was iron-willed and honest. What's wrong with that? I didn't say that. They said that. Happy days are here again. I said that if I had to give up all the important offices that I've held during my lifetime and I was told I couldn't keep but one, I'd be the governor of Kentucky. If everybody knew what I know about, they all want to live in Kentucky, and then we wouldn't have room for them, you understand? Ah, Lordy. Home ground. Where they said there's a lot of nice people and a few disgruntled soreheads. So I'll never forget that either. How do you do, Your Royal Highness? How are you?
Good to see you.
I'm delighted to see you. So this is like being on home ground
That's
again.
right. That's
Good
right.
luck
So
to
you know your way around.
Yes, ma'am. I think so.
Welcome to the Capitol.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Good luck.
60 years ago, Happy made his first trip to this building. He was a small-town lawyer elected to the Kentucky State Senate. The new kid impressed the politicians in the State House. He looked like a winner.
We didn't use the word glamour so much in those days, but he had it. There was a kind of new look about him, which is very attractive in politics. He was a new face. He was one that obviously had a lot going for him.
Happy quickly graduated from the state senate. In the next election, he was lieutenant governor. The party bosses predicted a bright future if he towed the line. Happy had ideas of his own.
A very audacious move that he made once when he caught the governor, Governor Ruby LaFoon, out of the state. LaFoon had gone up to Washington to confer with Democratic leaders there, and as soon as he crossed the state line, Happy became acting governor, became governor of the state under the state law, and he immediately issued a call for a special session to enact a primary law, and the special session met, the primary law was enacted, and went into effect.
Happy's primary law deflated the powerful political machine. The bosses lost their smoke-filled convention. The people gained a free and open primary election. And across the state, Happy was lauded as the people's champion.
He loves to quote from Shakespeare in explaining his decision to run for governor following the enactment of the primary law. And that, of course, the famous quotation, there's a tide.
A tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune, you know.
Urged on by hundreds of letters, Happy entered the governor's race. He bypassed the cities and courthouses and took his campaign to the people. He drove to every pig-picking barbecue and square dance in the state. Happy spoke the language of the people. He often finished a fiery speech with a rousing rendition of My Old Kentucky Home.
We went to hear him speak, and afterward he sang, and I just thought he was a fascinating man. His personality, everything. he really, and he was a very handsome man when he was young.
He had a good voice, too.
Oh.
He could really sing.
In 1935, the people gave Happy a narrow victory over the machine's candidate. He was sworn in as America's youngest governor. Happy ran on a reform platform, and he didn't let the people down. He built roads, schools, and hospitals. He cleaned house in the Capitol and saved $17 million. That was a lot of money in those days.
My father told me when I was growing up, if I spent more than I took in, I'd go broke. And I believed him, you understand?
No one was more surprised at Happy's success than his father. Joe Chandler was a poor but honest tobacco farmer. Happy's mother deserted the family when Chandler was 4 years old.
I was born on a small farm 1 mile north of Carden, Kentucky, C-Y-Y-D-O-N. I was born on the Diamond Island Road on Bastille Day in 1898. The house of Chandler Barney was no rich man's house. Poor as I was. He eat at anybody's house. Did you ever hear him make a talk while he was running for governor? He'd tell him he ate it at anybody's house. Anybody. I carried the papers. I was the paper boy. I carried the Sporting News around the streets of Carden in 1909. And between the times I was waiting for the train to bring my papers, I was catching fly balls and Mr. Bob was hitting them for me. Boy, he played over across the railroad track. I played baseball every waking hour, you know.
Yeah, this is an old baseball diamond. Used to be a barn sit back there.
When I was a boy, they called me Ty Cobb Chandler. And they asked me, could you hit? I said, they didn't name me boys for Ty Cobb couldn't hit.
Well, one time we was playing ball, we chewed up, got his father to Empire. We come out here and his father called a bad decision, he thought. We never played no more ball, I got all the rest of the evening. He just hated to lose that bad. He didn't want to lose. Yeah.
I didn't play baseball with him, but I might have been run over if I had gotten in his way. And I can remember Mother saying, Happy, don't play so hard with the children. They're just children. And he would say, well, they can't learn any younger. You've got to get out of the way, or you've got to throw the ball, or whatever. And it was his idea that you just start out right away teaching people that nobody's going to make it easy for you.
Happy relied on his own resources when he enrolled in prestigious Transylvania University in 1917.
He did not go on scholarships. He worked his way through. As he put it, he appeared on that campus with a red sweater, a smile, and a $5 bill.
Nicknames are something that the kids give you. And I say if they'd called me Stinky, I'd have been stuck with it, you know. And in about 17 or 18 on the campus of Transylvania, there's a kid from Lawrenceburg named Hawkins called out across the campus and said, there goes Happy Chandler. I was probably singing or making some sort of noise, you know. I was full of vinegar. And so he called me Happy Chandler, and it stuck.
In 1929, Happy met a pretty school teacher from Virginia. Mildred Watkins was already engaged. Happy soon beat the other fellow out.
No one's marriage is all good time, but the most of it. And the parts that weren't too hot, we met them together. I've heard some of them say they had so much more fun before they were married. Well, you just don't get married for fun and games. It depends on your attitude towards marriage. And I think Happy and I both had the training back of us that when you're married, my mother always taught me you pull in the double harness. And if one of them slacks up, that's throwing a whole lot more too much on the other side. You pull and double harness.
Pull your own weight, you know.
Dad and Mother met in a production of Little Women. And Dad was the German professor, and Mother was Amy. So right there it tells you that they were headed for show business. They detoured into other endeavors.
Mass rally in Bowling Green. I shook hands with 25,000 people one afternoon, and it was a hot summer day, and I had a white suit on. Water was running in my shoes.
That's right.
And my hand was swollen twice as big from shaking hands. And I had Waterfield with me, who was running for lieutenant governor. He gave out about halfway and retreated, you know.
So did I.
But I stayed.
I was down there in the line, but I quit too.
No,
but he stayed there long as there was anybody.
I used to speak 35, 40 minutes and then shake hands for 2 hours.
I can remember Dad speaking with such fire and with such conviction. The people that were listening to him felt that there was nothing that he couldn't do for them, that he was going to get them electricity. A lot of them didn't have electricity. He was going to take the sales tax off their food and their medicine, and he said it in ways that just brought people up out of their seats, you know, and he's just one of the very few leaders in the world, and there have been a few, that can elicit that response from people. Very emotional. He deals in emotion. And I've always been a trifle embarrassed by emotion.
We're strong, we're capable, and we shall move forward in the conviction that the things for which we stand are right, and with God's help, we'll lead this great party of ours to victory in November. Thank you, God bless you.
He had a wonderful personal touch, which everybody knows about. He called so many people in the audience by their name, you know, and he remembered everybody he'd ever met, as far as I can see. That memory was a remarkable asset politically to Happy, and he cultivated it.
He got up to make his talk, and he said about 5 words. He said, "There's my friend back there, Brown." He got 5 boys in service. I did have 5 boys in service, and all 5 of us was in service.
Campaigning, he ran into people in the mountain that he had talked to the year before, and he remembered what they were talking about. It had something sometime to do with a sow and pig. Yeah. But he remembered whatever it was that they had talked about before, which astounded them, but made them think, you know, that he had put them down in his mind as a special person.
The fellow says, "Are you going to vote for him?" I said, "Hell yes." He remembered me. He called my name.
He recognized me. Not only that, he kissed me. The first white man ever did kiss me. I was surprised, you know.
By 1938, Happy's term as governor was coming to an end, and he began to look around for something else to do. He decided to run for the Senate. There was a problem. The seat was occupied by Alben Barkley, Senate Majority Leader, future Vice President, and FDR's right-hand man. Happy was in for a tough contest.
Leave him where he is and leave me where I am as United States Senator.
He was scared. Mr. Roosevelt came down here and made 5 speeches in his behalf in one day.
Everybody at that time was courting FDR's support. His popularity was very high, and there was the rivalry from any candidate who was running to get the endorsement of FDR.
Time magazine and the national media generally accused Happy of jumping in and wedging himself in between the president and Senator Barkley.
Happy got himself in there, all right. I guess Happy saw a chance there at least to get pictured with FDR. He was always quick on his feet.
Happy ran head-on against the National Democratic Party and lost to Barkley in the primary. It was Happy's first defeat and potentially a major setback.
Every now and then, you dig a dry hole. Everybody does, no matter what they go. And some of them stay around and cry, you know, and sit down and moan, and that won't do it. That won't make up for it. You got to move your digger and dig someplace else, you know.
7 months later, the junior senator from Kentucky died. Happy was appointed to fill the vacancy and went off to Washington to examine the larger world picture.
The last time we were in Jerusalem, Ben Gurion gave me this Bible, and they go from back to front, you know that. I got a picture there of Mahatma Gandhi in India. We were in India during the war. That's his signature on his breeches there, you know. Of one of the 5 senators designated by the Senate to visit the world battlefronts. They're all dead now but me. I was with MacArthur in New Guinea. I had an opportunity to see the character and conduct of American boys in action all over the world.
In 1945, the war was winding to a close. Happy distinguished himself with his far-sighted work for international harmony. Around this time, he was offered a new job. Happy hated to leave the Senate, but the baseball owners offered what he considered the best job in America and a substantial pay raise.
Tractor Jack's here. Tractor Jack. Hello, my dear. Hey, Pearl. How are you?
Chandler was offered the commissionership because as a senator he supported baseball during the war. Happy's predecessor had been dignified and aloof. Happy was open, accessible, and affable. He loved going to games and mixing with players and fans. Happy's era was marked by post-war growing pains. GIs were returning, players were threatening to strike, the Mexican League was siphoning players, and there was the controversial issue of mixing the all-white boys of summer with black players.
My predecessor was Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, and he wouldn't let them play. If they were black, they were automatically disqualified. He died in 1944, and just before he died, they asked him again about it, and his answer was, everything's been said about this that's going to be said. The answer is no.
In 1946, in a secret meeting, the owners voted 13-1 against mixing the color lines. Happy counted the ballots. The only vote for integration came from Branch Rickey of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Rickey wanted to bring Jackie Robinson to the Dodgers. The owners opposed the idea. If Jackie was to play, Rickey needed the approval and support of the commissioner.
So Rickey called me on the telephone as soon as I got home and said, I've got to see you. And I said, all right, come on. Came down here. I told him, I said, I've thought about this thing many times. I was on the Senate Military Affairs Committee all during the Second World War and had opportunity to observe the character and conduct of American soldiers all over the world. I saw black men and white men and red men and yellow men and all kinds of colors. I wasn't present when the Lord gave out the colors, and I don't know why, but that's the way it is. They're colored. And they were offered to fight and die for the freedom of mankind. And I just can't believe that when a fellow offers his life for the freedom of mankind, when he comes back home, he's told he can't play the national pastime, national sport. And I said, I think this thing ought to be ended. And you bring him in, and I'll approve of the transfer of his contract from Montreal to Brooklyn, and we'll make the fight. The umpires hated him, and he didn't help himself some. He had a chip on his shoulder, and you can't blame him for that because he thought everybody was against him, and nearly everybody was. Dixie Walker told me, for example, he wasn't going to play with him. Ben Chapman, another Alabama boy, said, wait till he comes to Philadelphia, I'll make trouble for him. And I sent him a telegram. I said, if you make trouble for him, I'll make trouble for you.
Jackie endured untold humiliation as he opened the door for other blacks. Player by player, the top black athletes were signed by teams trying to stay competitive. When blacks and whites played together in America's pastime, this was a major crack in the wall of segregation. It advanced civil rights significantly in America. Happy went against the wishes of most owners, players, and fans in signing Jackie's contract. It was a decision a weaker commissioner may have delayed.
It was decision time, and somebody had to make it. I was the only fellow on earth that could.
Any notions the owners may have held that Happy was a smiling, malleable figurehead soon evaporated. Happy was driven by his love for baseball. He worked hard to make it the sport he imagined it to be as a boy. He barred players from racetracks and suspended street tough Leo DeRocher for running with the wrong crowd. He set up a pension fund to protect aging players, and when he found Babe Ruth alcoholic and penniless, he gave the Babe a day in the sun again at Yankee Stadium. The fans cheered Ruth, but booed Happy. Fans were angry over his suspension of DeRocher. Happy was never fully appreciated by the East Coast city slickers.
People in the Northeast said, gee, why is that person so happy? Why is he so pleasant? Why is he talking so long and being so friendly? There is that sort of Northeast suspicion of that, maybe for good and for bad. And he probably rubbed people the wrong way.
I first met Happy in 1951 at the Broadway Central Hotel in New York City. We were celebrating the 75th anniversary, I guess, of the National League. And Happy was in his last months as commissioner. I went to the party and I met him, and I was enchanted by him. I really was enchanted by him. I was enchanted by his charm, his good humor, he was fun to be with. I thought it then, and I haven't changed my thinking about Happy in the 35 ensuing years. But I didn't see him again for 18 years. By that time, I was commissioner. Happy had gone back to Kentucky, become governor again. Had been forgotten by baseball. I think he resented that. I know he resented it.
That's my friend Bowie Kuhn, who was fourth commissioner of baseball, and a very good one indeed. And I think didn't have any better commissioner in his lifetime than Bowie Kuhn. And of course, he got shabby treatment from the owners, but that's what else is new. They don't give everybody shabby treatment. They don't know everybody, but everybody they do know, they give shabby treatment.
He really thought he had become a leper in baseball, that they had put him aside. He thought he'd been good for baseball, and I think he was good for baseball. And I think he belonged in the Hall of Fame, but he was worried that other fates were at work. And they weren't. Justice was finally done. Happy was put in the Hall of Fame, and he came to Cooperstown. And I'll never forget how thrilled he was to be there, and what a good old daddy he was up there in Cooperstown.
In the spring of '51, Happy's commissionership ended. He was 3 votes shy of having his contract renewed by the owners. Happy put his commissioner's office in Cincinnati so he could look across the river to what he called the Promised Land. Now he would return for good.
Do you think he was disappointed when he was asked to leave?
There's no doubt that he was disappointed when he was asked to leave. I think it came to him at least as a mild shock, if not a major shock.
We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home, far away.
That says, "Welcome home, Happy." A crowd estimated at between 4,500 and 5,000 has gathered to hear the closing campaign address of A.B. Happy Chandler, candidate for the Democratic nomination for governor of Kentucky.
Sometimes in politics the game gets a little rough, but I've always insisted if you can't stand the gas, you ought to get out of the game.
Here they are, all here to see the man who pulled the greatest political upset in modern times, Happy Chandler. In 1955, Happy was back in the governor's mansion. School desegregation was the issue of the day. Across the South, governors were forced to choose sides.
One day at Clay, the mayor of Clay called me on the telephone and said, "That's my country. That's where I was born. Albert," he said, "there ain't no nigger going to school here." And I said to him, "Herman, you own that town, and I don't know whether they are or not, but if they show up, they're going." So one day, 2 little black kids had the whole school. All the kids left and the teachers left, but the little black kids were in school. That was my job. It was the law. At the same time, Wallace was standing at the front door in Alabama. Faubus was telling them they couldn't go to school in Arkansas. And we handled that about, I think the record will show, we handled the integration of schools with about as little trouble. Nobody was killed. And with about as little trouble as any state handled it in the United States. And I'm not running for anything. I'm just reciting to you now what happened, you understand? I'm not running from anything either, but...
Governor, it's a pleasure to have a candidate for the presidency on our program this afternoon, but I'm curious to know just how serious are your intentions, sir?
Once I set my hand to the plow, I keep plowing until I get to the end of the furrow and then turn a furrow.
In '56, Happy made a run for the White House. He went off to the Democratic Convention in Chicago, where he received votes in 8 states on the first ballot. The party passed over the old handshaking stump speaker and gave the nod to Urbane Adlai Stevenson. Happy gave it another try in '60. Near the end of his career, he found the competition getting younger and younger.
Satchel Paige said it best of all. He said, "Don't look back, they may be gaining on you." And I always knew that the youngsters would come along. Everybody knows that. If they don't, they're dumb, you know. And I knew there were fellas who wanted my job. I had some good jobs, you know. And there's always somebody that wants your job, especially if it's a good one. That never dismayed me or never bothered me. It didn't interfere with I just tried to keep ahead of them, you understand. And the record will show that I did it fairly well for a number of years.
Unquestionably, the style of appeal had changed. Chandler's greatest appeal was when he was in the flesh and had a great audience around him and could appeal to that audience directly. He had a monumental memory. He was able to ask them about their grandparents and make other personal comments that just made him unbeatable on the stump.
Over the years, Happy made several unsuccessful attempts to regain the governorship. His last race was in 1971. George Vesey covered the campaign.
And I think he knew he didn't have a chance to win, but of course he did it bravely. He went around in a van, one of these mobile vans with My Old Kentucky Home blaring from the loudspeaker and bells ringing. It was sort of a chance for him to go around the countryside as a last hurrah and say goodbye to his people. Well, I remember going to this little, it may have even been originally a bootlegger's paradise. Now it was like a little bar and grill out in the middle of nowhere, out in the back of Bourbon County or somewhere. And this little old black lady, must have been about 80 years old, came out of this place, and I don't know if she'd been primed to be there or what, but she like suddenly materialized, and in this great, beautiful voice of hers, she said, "Oh, Governor Chandler, it's so nice to see you again. You were always so good to me." And he said, "Well, Mary, I know you voted for me every time, and you were always here for me, Mary." And it was a great feeling that the two of them had, that they understood each other. They'd been through all these times. I mean, he went back to a time of, they both went back to a time of segregation, and people were generally affectionate of him. I mean, whether they thought he could win or not, they were thanking him for what he had meant to the Commonwealth so many years before.
Hey, nobody thinks we were a baby girl. They didn't send it here. Send it someplace else. I'm all but scout for baby girl.
It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming down.
Nice to be here. Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Do you remember L.B. Barton? Do you remember L.B. Barton?
Nicholas County.
Yeah, I'm his daughter.
Oh, my Lord, he was one of my most beloved friends.
He thought a lot of you.
Nicholas County. Well, he was salt of the earth.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad to see you. Partner, take care. I'm the only governor that's been elected in anybody's lifetime that went home after he got through. All the rest of them went someplace else.